To say to somebody's house, for example, I'm going to Carmen's house, to Carmen's house. That to somebody's house is a casa de Carmen, for example, a casa de Carmen. We'd often just say to Carmen's, as opposed to the whole sentence to Carmen's house. If you want to say to my brother's or to my brother's house, a casa de mi hermano, a casa de mi hermano, to house of. How would you say I'm going to Maria's? I'm going to Maria's, as in I'm going to Maria's house. Voy a casa de María. Voy a casa de María. So it might be something like, esta noche voy a casa de María. Tonight I'm going to Maria's. How about, I need to go to Pablo's before my trip. I need to go to Pablo's before my trip. Necesito ir a casa de Pablo antes de mi viaje. Necesito ir a casa de Pablo antes de mi viaje. And I should have told you that to go, the infinitive of go, because we haven't used it yet in this course, is ir, 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 to go, the infinitive of go. So our sentence was, necesito ir a casa de Pablo antes de mi viaje. How about, from time to time, I go to my brother's for lunch. From time to time, I go to my brother's house for lunch. And I used my brother, an example earlier, in case you don't know it. My brother is mi hermano. And for lunch is para, and then to eat. Para comer is for lunch. So our sentence is, from time to time, I go to my brother's for lunch. De vez en cuando voy a casa de mi hermano para comer. De vez en cuando voy a casa de mi hermano para comer. How about, it doesn't make sense to go to Danny's for lunch. It doesn't make sense to go to Danny's for lunch. It doesn't make sense is something we did many lessons ago, so see if you can remember it. So it doesn't make sense to go to Danny's for lunch. What's that? No tiene sentido ir a casa de Danny para comer. No tiene sentido ir a casa de Danny para comer. How about, it's the last time that I'm going to Rafa's. It's the last time that I'm going to Rafa's house. Es la última vez que voy a casa de Rafa. Es la última vez que voy a casa de Rafa. The word for I went, again, this is something that's covered in the main Pro Spanish course, because it comes under the more of a grammar category, is fui. Fui is I went, but I'm going to quickly teach it to you now so that we can create a wider range of sentences. So fui, I went. Fui. I went. How would you say, I went to Pablo's after lunch, or after eating? I went to Pablo's after lunch. Fui a casa de Pablo después de comer. Fui a casa de Pablo antes de comer. Actually, it's después de comer. I went to my sister's before the party. What would that be? I went to my sister's before the party. Fui a casa de mi hermana antes de la fiesta. Fui a casa de mi hermana antes de la fiesta. How about, it's time to go to Miguel's. It's time to go to Miguel's house. Es hora de ir a casa de Miguel. Es hora de ir a casa de Miguel. If you want to say the next day in Spanish, it's al día siguiente. Al día siguiente. Something like the following day. Al día siguiente. Just practice that a couple of times. Al día siguiente. Al día siguiente. How would you say, the next day I went to my sister's? The next day I went to my sister's. Al día siguiente fui a casa de mi hermana. Al día siguiente fui a casa de mi hermana. How about, the next day I went on a trip to Spain. The next day I went on a trip to Spain. Al día siguiente fui de viaje a España. Al día siguiente fui de viaje a España. How about, in the end, I went to Pablo's the next day. In the end, I went to Pablo's the next day. Al final, fui a casa de Pablo al día siguiente. Al final, fui a casa de Pablo al día siguiente. And how about, so I went the next day. So I went the next day. Entonces fui al día siguiente. Entonces fui al día siguiente. We've seen that solo means only or just. Solo. If you take the accent of that first O, the pronunciation is exactly the same, solo, but it now means alone. Alone. So solo, just like solo, means alone as well. Solo. The film Home Alone, in Spanish, is solo en casa. Alone at home. Solo en casa. So solo, no accent, but the pronunciation just the same, means alone. How would you say, I went alone? I went alone. Fui solo. Fui solo. How about I went alone to Pablo's? I went alone to Pablo's. And it could be, in English, we might say I went on my own. I went alone or I went on my own to Pablo's. What would that be? Fui solo a casa de Pablo. Fui solo a casa de Pablo. How would you say, the next day I went alone to Valencia. The next day I went alone or on my own to Valencia. Al día siguiente fui solo a Valencia. Al día siguiente fui solo a Valencia.